Hello everybody, Jack here from Peach Guitars. Very happy Thursday to you all. Thank you for tuning in once again. We've had a bit of an 80s themed afternoon, hence I had to put some in there, a little bit of 80s riffage for you. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to get straight to the point with today's live video. As always, thank you so much for watching, really appreciate it. We've had a great week of live videos. What a lucky bunch you all are. This is the third live video in a week. It's been an absolute pleasure to be doing them. The weather's been absolutely fantastic as well, so everyone's in good spirits, and all the guitars that we've picked out have all been very well received by everybody, so I really appreciate all that support that we've had. Wanted to round up the week though with a theme that we know is going to appeal to a lot of you. Whenever we do anything with Fender and Gibson on board, it's always going to be a good day. So hopefully this is going to be something that you're going to enjoy for your Thursday afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the world. As I said, I'm going to get straight to the point, less of the waffle. Today is Gibson Custom Shop kind of a day. Not just Custom Shop though, I'm going to kind of, show you some inner workings of Gibson, some new stuff as well to their acoustic original collection. So this is going to be a first for a live video where we're going to show you some acoustic stuff as well. But before I delve into the guitars, I just want to thank everyone who's watching so far. We've had some really nice comments. Hello to the lovely pennies out there. Really appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate everyone that's watching and commenting. Please keep the comments coming in. Keep the live chat nice and healthy, because we rely on that for these live videos. It's great to have your interaction, and it's much appreciated. So, started out with this guitar, which is one of my very favorite guitars in the store. I've always had a thing for double cut juniors, and whether it's the Johnny Thunders Association or whatever it is, I don't know. They just seem like complete rock and roll masterpieces to me, and they're always mega fun to play, and it's always striking whenever you do play one just how versatile they actually can be. Obviously they do the sort of balls out rocky thing very well, which you'll have heard at the start there, but as I'm going to show you in a minute, they also sound fantastic clean. And I think it's a little bit of a misleading guitar. When you look at a guitar of this kind of price point, we're in Gibson Custom Shop category of course. When you stack it up next to a Les Paul Standard, you might think that you're paying a lot of money for a single pickup, rather simple guitar, but the actual fact is it makes you play in a very certain and a very inspired way, and that's why I kind of love them. They're real simple beasts, just a single Gibson custom dog ear P90 in this guitar. I'll give you a couple of other specs as well while we're here. Obviously the Gibson family of products always kind of adhere to mahogany bodied, mahogany necks and stuff like that, rosewood fingerboard. So the formula kind of stays the same. It always has worked for them, so why would they ever change it? But there's just something about this kind of makeup, and just having a single wraparound tailpiece as well makes these guitars really comfortable to play. So let me just give you a few more examples. I'm going to show you some clean stuff as well, and then once I've played this guitar, I'm going to talk you through what's in the signal chain. So let me play you a little bit, and then we'll talk some more. So hopefully that serves as an example of what a good junior can do if you know how to use one. Just by stacking different gain kind of stages on one another, all the way from clean to some nice mid-gain stuff, and then I pushed it with another overdrive, which I'll talk about in a second. There's so many different flavors that you can get out of a Les Paul Junior, or basically any single pickup style guitar for that matter. But Les Paul Junior always has kind of the rock edge to it, whereas an Esquire, for example, might have a little bit of more of a kind of a bright tonality. This has got a lot more meat to it. It's always amazing how much kind of heft and meaty sound you can get out of a single P90 on a guitar like this. But just by cleaning up on the volume, it's a very dynamic sounding guitar. You can take your high gain sound and clean it up straight away. And the other thing I wanted to point out in there, which hopefully you'll have picked up on, is there's no neck pickup obviously, but if you just roll down your tone and stick on a nice mid-rich sounding overdrive, you can kind of approximate that really thick sound. It doesn't really sound like the kind of the woman tone thing that you'd normally get from rolling off the tone control on a Gibson style guitar. It's a little bit clearer than that, and therefore I kind of think it does approximate the sound of a neck pickup if you need it. Approximate, of course, it doesn't emulate it, but it's useful to know. It's a little tip, and you find yourselves exploring these idiosyncrasies on guitars like this. When they're so simple, you've just got to make it work with your hands, basically. So you do find little nuances in the guitars that you might not have experienced with other guitars, and that, to me, is what makes these guitars worth what they are. When you find a good one like this particular one is incredible. There's another guitar here, there's another Junior on the end there that's a single cut. I've always preferred double cuts personally. I think they've got a little bit more of that SG kind of focused mid-range to the double cuts, but a single cut will do the job just the same. So if you're interested in these guitars, guys, make sure you check out the link that's going to be in the live chat to this particular guitar, and you can also check out the single cut if you're interested in that too. But these are amazing instruments, and Gibson Custom keep pumping out incredible versions of these guitars, so long may it continue. I think these are one of the best guitar designs that's ever been, and I think it always will be that way. So let me just talk you through the signal chain, as I did kind of tease it a couple of times there. I've mixed things up today, specifically for this video. We always try and match the rig to suit whatever the guitars are going to be. Yesterday was way more of a wide array of different styles of guitars, so it's a very versatile sounding rig. Being Gibson guitars though, today I wanted to stick straight to the point of just kind of getting some great classic rock and blues kind of tones. So I'm using the trusty Dr. Z Maz 38, which is set pretty clean. And then I've got 3 gain pedals on the floor today that you're going to hear me use. What you're going to hear the most is the Rocket Majestic overdrive, which is an amazing amp style, like 70s amp style, low to mid gain kind of pedal. I really love that. Plugged it in today and it sounds perfect for what I wanted to do with this video today. Lead tones are going to be boosted with a Way Huge Conspiracy Theory, so a really nice sort of clon style overdrive for a little bit of that mid-range boost I was talking about earlier. So you're going to hear a combination of that quite often, and then just for fun I thought I'd put a fuzz in, and it's my favourite fuzz pedal that I've ever played in this store. Some of you may remember it from an Instagram story a few weeks ago. It's the Vemuran Shanks fuzz. So you're going to hear a combination of those things, as well as a little bit of reverb and delay coming from the Line 6 HX effects. As always, that's the basics of the pedal board. That's the whole rig. Really simple stuff, but it's just worth kind of breaking these things down, and they all play a very important part in the tones you're going to hear. Alright, so that's the Junior out of the way, and that one took a lot of gushing and a lot of breath, so I'm going to try and keep it a little bit more concise with the rest of these guitars as we go. As I said before, if anyone's got any questions about any of these instruments, please drop them in the live chat, or after this video is over, drop them in the comments and we'll answer your questions for you. All the questions that you're going to want answering in terms of specs though will be on the website, so make sure you check the links in the live chat for each guitar if you want to find out more about it. I'm not going to talk too much about the specs. There's not too much to talk about really. Everyone kind of knows what makes a Gibson a Gibson. That said, this is one of those guitars that kind of just stands out. It's a little bit different to everything else that we've got in terms of semi-hollow guitars at the moment. And the ES family of guitars has always been the case that you've really got to play each one to find which one works for you. And these kind of 335s, this is a 59, so the late 50s, they always just sound phenomenal. They're very consistent. I think that the 60s spec ES guitars are a little bit more finicky. You have to spend more time finding the one. The 58s and the 59s they have the sound that you're kind of looking for. They've got a much bigger neck on these guitars. This guitar also has Gibson's new MHS pickups, which are the Memphis Historic Spec. So they've obviously spent a lot of time in working out, kind of ironing out the kinks, working out the consistencies that they needed to put into making these pickups as not only as historically accurate as possible. It's very difficult to say for some reason, but also making sure that they're consistent from guitar to guitar. So electronically, these guitars are sound. You know, you can pretty much pick up any one. I did just pick up a random one off the wall of this model, but you're going to know that it's consistent from guitar to guitar. So let me show you what that sounds like. Once again, an ES-335 can be an incredibly versatile guitar. It'll take you everywhere from nice, open, sparkly, clean tone. I'm not going to run through the whole list of cliches once again, the mid-gain, the high gain, it does it all. Everyone knows this, but it's always worth pointing out that 335s are more than just blues guitars, they're more than just jazz guitars or bebop guitars. They've got so many tones lurking in there, and a bit like with the double cut, It's kind of the magic of Gibson, really. They're deceptively simple instruments, but you can kind of coax out a lot of different sounds out of them, as you can, of course, with Fenders too, but it's a kind of different school of thought. There's just so many sounds lurking in here, and as I said, I really like the late 50s spec 335s. They've got the bigger neck. I think they sustain a little bit more. They don't quite have the stinging mid-range of like a 63 or a 64. So a little bit broader sounding, a little bit bigger sounding maybe, and the kind of natural blonde finish. I just want to get the name of the colour exactly right. Vintage natural, in fact. It's so beautiful, it's just natural. Sitka spruce top. Sorry, maple top. No, I've forgotten the spec. I've got it written down right in front of me and I've forgotten the spec. Check out the web link for that stuff. Anyway, yeah, so there you are. The MHS pickups again in this guitar. I don't know how it's so simple and I got it so wrong, but there you go. Great sounding instrument. So I'm going to move on. Now I'm really going to mix things up. I'm going to do something we haven't done on a live video before and play some acoustic. Because as we were lining up the guitars for this video today, we kind of thought everyone's familiar with Gibson's iconic electric instruments. Don't need the cable, of course. But acoustics are such an equally important part of their heritage. Arguably even more so in some circles, because Gibson acoustics are so influential on kind of the blues rock markets of the 50s and the 60s. You've got the country players that used them, and still to this day they're one of the modern staples of acoustic guitar making. Probably no model more iconic than an SJ-200, and it also just so happened that we very recently received shipment of the new original acoustic collection. So that kind of reignited the spark. Gibson introduced a ton of new acoustic models to that lineup, stuff that we hadn't seen for ages, like the J50, the J185 and stuff like this. So they just really kind of revamped the love for acoustic guitars. They pumped all their energy into the original electric collection last year. This year it's the year of Gibson acoustics, which I think is really cool. I love these guitars. I think the J200 and the J45 in particular, which I'm going to show you later on, they're two of the best acoustic guitar models ever, and I absolutely adore them. They're just great guitars to sit and strum and just kind of work out the ideas out on. Same thing with the electrics. They're deceptively simple. Obviously, how complex can an acoustic be? But the formula has remained unchanged, and it's not until you play one or hear one that you really understand that simple is quite often best. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Hopefully this vocal mic is going to do this guitar justice. If you want to hear more detailed, in-depth kind of audio review, check out the listings by clicking the web link in the live chat, and you're going to hear proper stereo mic setup. But here we go. This is just a preliminary vocal mic recording of an SJ-200. There we are. So a few SJ-200 cliches in there for you. I couldn't get away without playing Oasis. Sorry everyone if you disagree, but that's what's got to be done. Really iconic guitar, really beautifully constructed. The maple kind of has a life of its own. You don't hear too many maple acoustics anymore. There was kind of a spate of them basically copying J200s throughout the 60s and 70s from different brands, but none ever quite came close to what these guitars do. And it's great that obviously Gibson, we've heard all the hyperbole about Gibson over the past couple of years. They are back in the best form they've ever been. They're making instruments as good as they ever have done. And that applies to their acoustics as well. So I just wanted to draw a little bit of attention to this. As I said, if you want to find out more of the Gibson acoustics we've got, please check out the web links in the live chat. Check out peachguitars.com, and you can hear every single one that we've got via the video listings that we've already filmed. So there we are, a bit of acoustic action. We're going to come back to that a little bit later. But of course I'm going to change gear once again and do something that's completely ridiculously opposing to what I just did. This is another first. I'm not going to try and be cool with a V. I'm going to play it like it's supposed to be played, between the legs. You either look cool or you don't with these kind of guitars. So I'll let you be the judge. I'm going to play it and then I'm going to tell you about it. The perfect time to mess up a pinch harmonic is always right at the end of whatever the segment is of what you've been playing, so had to do it. Okay, so let's talk about V's. For a lot of people, you might think this is a rather obscene shape to be seen with in public. If you're not maybe the biggest metal fan in the world, then you might not have been exposed to V's that much in recent years, but there's always the division of you got Albert King or you've got Michael Schenker. Those are kind of the two big V camps. And it's very easy to forget that they had such a long history. These guitars came around in the late 50s, and actually a lot of players over time have used them. And it's not just to look cool, as you can tell by my absence of doing so. I think they have such a unique tonal property, and I know that one of the guys watching this, Mr. Steve Burrows, has a couple of V's, maybe even an extra one after this video is over, I don't know. And I'd imagine that Steve will understand what I'm talking about. There's a tonal property to a V, and it kind of applies to an Explorer as well, that you don't get out of a Les Paul or an SG. They've kind of got the snarly mid-range that an SG has, but I guess there's physically more wood on the guitar, so there's just extra kind of heft to it as well. So it's a really nice little in-between spot. And you often hear stories of guys that would overdub parts in the studio with V's or Explorers for that exact reason. So Les Pauls are amazing, SGs are amazing, they've all got their unique things, and it's always worth remembering that V's do as well. And if you can get used to sitting and playing a guitar like this, or obviously the thing you have to do is stand up. that's kind of where you get your cool points from. But they do sound great, and I think they've got a really unique tonal property. This guitar is even pushing further in that direction of unique, because this is actually a custom V, and it's kind of a little bit of a mishmash of different Gibson components. So obviously it's a V form factor, but you'd be forgiven for mistaking this for a Les Paul Custom in certain regards, because all the appointments on it are Les Paul Custom derived. So we've got Les Paul Custom on the stand over there. You'll see there's a lot of similarities in the ebony finish, the ebony appointments, the gold hardware. This guitar actually has a mahogany body as opposed to Carina, which you would usually expect on a V. So again, that kind of contributes to a little bit more of a snarly mid-range, I think. And then pickup-wise, you've actually got Gibson's 490R and the 498T, which is an Alnico 2 and an Alnico 5, respectively. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a different flavour of tone as well. It's a little bit of a hotter pickup. And what you kind of get, I think, is just a really nice blend of all these different qualities. It's not quite as murky as a Les Paul Custom can be, because of that wood combination makes it a little bit more lively, a bit more zingy. But this guitar's got really kind of great sounding electronics that sound pretty thick as well. Let me just turn the tuner on before I try and tune the guitar. So yeah, it is an interesting kind of mashup, and we don't see too many Vs very often, unfortunately. I don't get to play them very often, hence why I haven't practiced my stance. But whenever I do get to play them, it's always a bit of fun, and it just kind of reminds you of what guitar playing should be, lest I sound like a kind of cliche cookbook of having fun with guitar. But it is kind of true, you just got to sit and play these things and have a bit of fun with them. So let me show you some more tones. I showed you some gain stuff. I'm going to show you a little bit of clean as well, and I might put the fuzz on, because why not? You know, Hendrix used a V and played fuzz pedals, so let's see what comes out. Way too much fun, really, for one person to be having sitting here on a sofa on my own. But you get the idea. I love Vs, and it's just always worth being reminded of the fact that they sound as cool as they look. So that's enough of that guitar. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to do a little bit of swappage here because I've got to put this back on the special V stand, of course. And rather suitably, I'm going to go to another acoustic guitar, of course, just to keep these things interesting. Let me just pop this down 1 second. Okay, somebody asked about the Les Paul Custom as well. Might come to that guitar towards the end if we've got time, as it is a worthy kind of... I don't know why I keep picking up a cable for acoustic guitars. Right. Let me show you what this guitar sounds like, then I'm going to talk about it. So this guitar is one of the new original acoustic collection that I was talking about earlier on. This is a 50s J-45 original. So there's a couple of spec changes to this guitar over the current production J-45. They've kind of tweaked the wood combination a little bit, I believe. The construction methods are largely unchanged. But you just kind of get the sense of a much more vintage tonality out of this guitar. The modern J-45 standard is a great acoustic as well. And if you're looking for something with the LR bags pickup and stuff like that, then obviously that's going to be a slightly better fit for maybe live applications. But this guitar, just for sitting and playing, it's kind of got the best of all worlds. It's got the modern kind of Gibson punch that you expect out of a modern acoustic guitar, but you can also just sit back and strum this thing. Same thing with the SJ-200. I've always kind of personally preferred J-45s though, because they have a little bit of a stronger mid-range, obviously thanks to the mahogany body, red spruce top on this guitar. Again, not too many specs to talk about. If you know about Gibson acoustics and kind of how they differentiate from each other, then you'll appreciate the differences in what you hear between the SJ-200 and this guitar. So let me just play a little bit more and maybe do some fingerstyle stuff. And you'll just hear how articulate these guitars can be. I really love them. Couple of little tuning issues there, but that's the beauty of a live video, isn't it? Operating an acoustic guitar without a tuner. Hopefully you'll have heard, though, just how articulate these guitars can be. As I said, that was something I really wanted to stress They just sound amazing, and whatever you want to do with them, as soon as you lay into kind of a strumming pattern or something from fingerstyle, they've got this natural compression that just makes it so easy to play. And you often talk about the kind of cliche of an electric player picking up an acoustic for the first time and feeling a little bit lost. I'd never found that the case with Gibson acoustics, because they have that kind of innate compression and a little bit more of a mid-range push than some other acoustic guitars. You do find them easy to play. And actually a very good link, if you are an electric player and you're looking for a J-45 style guitar, maybe this doesn't quite float your boat, check out the Slash version of the J-45. We've done a couple of videos on this and you're going to be seeing more of it in the future. Didn't want to include it today because it's not part of the original collection, but that is an amazing acoustic guitar for an electric player. It's just worth pointing out. This has got a really nice neck profile. The Slash guitar has a slightly bigger neck profile, which kind of adds a little bit of extra depth to the tone. But this guitar is just kind of pretty much in the middle. So yeah, I just really I wanted to talk a little bit about Gibson acoustics. These are probably the two best examples I could have done so with, and hopefully that will give you an idea of what Gibson's doing with their original acoustic collection now. Anyway, I'll get back to the reason that probably all of you will be here, when we're talking about Gibson, and more specifically Gibson Custom. We've got to talk about a Les Paul Standard. So this is one of the 60th anniversary 59 Les Pauls from last year. Excuse me. This is a Royal T-burst finish. We had some amazing finishes, and in particular this one is one of the made-to-measure guitars. So one of the guitars that John spec'd out from the Nashville factory when he went out there, hand-picked this maple top. So it's an absolutely stunning guitar. We've got a few of these left now, not very many at all, but there are still a few here. So if you're interested in picking one up, now is a very good time to do so. Obviously now is the 60th anniversary of the 1960 Les Paul, so with slightly slimmer necks are your thing. We are going to be seeing more of the 60 spec coming in a little later in the year, but for now I think most people kind of refer to 59s when they think of Les Paul standards. So let me show you some of the tones. I also want to talk a little bit about the clean tones. There's often a misunderstanding that Les Pauls can't do cleans. I have set the amp up today for a little bit of breakup, so it's not super sparkly clean, but you're going to hear what I'm talking about. They're basically like big sounding Telecasters. That's what always has been the number one priority for me when I've played the Les Paul, is to get that kind of zingy top end that you get out of a Tele, that you would have expected from a late 50s Les Paul. It obviously took them a little while to figure out how to do that, because a lot of it was just age and the quality of the wood that was used back then, I suppose. Different construction methods. They've spent so much time over the years refining that. And check out the overview video that we made talking about the processes that go into the 60th anniversary builds. They've really kind of nailed it now, and you hear it in the tone of every one of these guitars, even acoustically as well. There's a real kind of zing to these guitars. So let me show you some clean tones first. I just wanted to point that out before I get to the inevitable cranked Marshall-y kind of tones that we're going to go for as well. So let me show you some cleans. kind of had to end up with what a Les Paul does best in most people's opinion, which is that really nice, snarly, mid-rangey thing. And I did put the Vemuran fuzz on as well, just to play some lead. Whatever you do with a Les Paul, it always sounds like a Les Paul, and that's one of the best things about it. But hopefully you'll have maybe got a little glimpse there of the fact that if you clean it up, which these guitars do fantastically, by the way, they clean up really well on the volume controls, you can still get some nice kind of funky tones, and you get a lot of clarity. I know that the guitarist from Tower of Power, whose name escapes me right now, has always used a Les Paul, so if he can pull it off in a funk band, probably the biggest and best funk band in the world, it should tell you all you need to know about a good Les Paul, if you know how to use it properly in the right context. Basically, you can apply any of these guitars to any musical context, and it's going to work. So that's kind of one of the best things about Gibson. I had to talk a little bit about the 59, and I will just point out before I go that these are the custom bucker pickups. I don't know if Gibson have now changed to the MTS pickups on all their guitars for their 2020 output like they did with the ES-335 that I talked about earlier. But the custom buckers just really kind of suit these guitars. They were custom voiced, obviously, for these individual spec of Les Pauls. So the 59s had their own custom pickups, the 58s had their own, I believe. So they just really suit this voice for this guitar, and it's kind of one of the last chances you'll get to pick one of these up. So check out the live chat for the link to this particular guitar, but you can also check out the website for the rest of the stock that we've got. So that leads me to the last remaining member of the Gibson electric family that I want to talk about today. I know I haven't talked about Explorers and ES-330s and the whole abundance of Gibson classics that I'm really pleased to say are coming back in their lineup for this year. You know, we're seeing a lot. When we went to NAMM this year, I was amazed at the amount of variety in Gibson stock that they had in the custom shop. You're seeing really cool Firebirds, you're seeing some amazing Vs. They're really paying attention to what they used to do, basically, and I think that's what everyone wanted them to do for the longest time. And this guitar is a good example of that. So many times you've seen an SG standard, like a 61 spec standard, or more previously the kind of USA standard with the batwing pickguard. Those are great guitars, but it kind of kick-started when Gibson brought into their original collection those batwing pickguard SG specials last year. And you kind of thought it's going to be the year of some cool SGs. This kind of fits the mold of what I'm talking about. This is a 64 custom shop reissue, SG standard, but they put a Maestro vibrola on here, which I'm not even going to touch. You can use it, of course, but really it's part of the whole aesthetic and part of the vibe, and that makes you play in a certain way, as I've talked about with some of the other features on these guitars. It's a great system, but it's really just how it impacts the tone, I think. You get a little bit more openness, you get a little bit more of that Robbie Krieger kind of clean snap to the guitar. So I'm going to show you some of that first, and then I'm going to go to some gain sounds. And I happen to know someone who might be interested in this guitar. So if you're interested, who isn't that person, get on the website as quickly as you can, because I have a feeling this might go very soon. Let me show you what it sounds like. end on the most disgusting tone I could muster. That was all pedals on at once. Just a very quick recap, guys, for the rig. If anyone's just joined us, I've been using the Dr. C Maz 38 amplifier clean. I've got the Rocket Majestic overdrive pedal for kind of an ampy gain tone. Got the Way Huge Conspiracy Theory for a lead boost tone with a bit of mid punch, and I was using the Vemuran Shanks fuzz as well. I just wanted to clarify that for anyone who may have just joined after I talked about that stuff. So yeah, just to finish up with this 64 SG standard, as I said, it's the Maestro Vibrola. These pickups sound incredible in this guitar, and they're Gibson's custom buckers, but these are actually voiced for the SG specifically. So it's an Alnico 3 pickup set, and they're unpotted, and that's kind of important. An important factor in the tone. That's what gives it that really breathy, open sound, and it's what I think that makes it sound really alive. So really, really nice SG. You don't see these very often at all, so obviously it had to make its way into this lineup of guitars today. I think we've had a really strong lineup of Gibson guitars, and I wanted to finish there. So I just want to say, as always, thank you everyone very much for watching this video today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have and you want to find out more about these guitars, there's going to be a newsletter coming, so make sure that you're subscribed to our email newsletter. There'll be a link in this live chat to make sure that you can do so if you haven't done so already. You see all these instruments I've talked about, as well as giving you information on the other stuff that we've been up to. We kind of put everything in that newsletter, so make sure that you hit subscribe and make sure that you stay tuned to that. It'll keep you up to date with what we're doing. The state of affairs at the moment is obviously a little bit unsure, but we're still trying our best to get you regular content. We've done a lot of live videos this week, so next week we might be reining it back a little bit. We'll have to wait and see. It depends on what you guys want to see. Let us know in the comments the rest of the stuff that you'd like to see. Give us some ideas for future themes. We really appreciate all the support, as always. I appreciate that people are still buying gear. It's amazing. We've been selling guitars left, right and backwards. It's been fantastic. So thank you so much to everyone for your custom. Thank you everyone for your time, and hopefully you've been entertained and enjoyed this video today. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week. So thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned, and I'll see you next week. Take care, guys.